Welcome to the Roar Mindset, Leading Through Chaos. I'm Peter Brandberger, and I help leaders embrace chaos to turn disruption into an advantage. Each episode brings stories and strategies to help you stop fighting disruption, lead with clarity, and thrive in uncertain times. Welcome back to my conversation with Lynette Winter, an executive coach and leadership advisor working to reduce unnecessary suffering within teams and organizations. She is also the co-creator of the Intel Leadership Fitness Program. In this second part, we explore how leaders can leverage the vulnerability of not having all the answers to unlock the intelligence of the team. We also get into what often lies beneath conflict, how people try to get their needs met, and how finding shared care can shift a conversation. We also explore a simple yet powerful way to structure conversations through relationship, possibility, or action from the leadership program. We also explore a simple yet powerful way to structure conversations through relationship, possibility, and action, or RPA, from the Leadership Fitness Program, helping you stay grounded, curious, and effective in the moment. I'll share some reflections at the end, so stay with us for ways you can put this into practice. Enjoy.
I just was speaking with a leader late last week, and this person is new to the industry that he's in and has an adjacent industry and deep expertise. Fantastic leader. But there's a lot to learn. So now running a new company, new to him company. And he said, the person who's been in my role, they grew up, they literally grew up in the business. Like it was a family business and so not just, oh, they were 19, no, they grew up truly. And this leader said, he knows so much about this company, about this entire industry, and it's going to take me years to get there. But what I recognize is this whole team together has that knowledge. And his ability to be vulnerable and acknowledge that, to say, I'm not going to be the expert here, but I'm really good at leadership. I'm really good at creating teams. I'm really good at setting a vision and making sure we execute, like all that good leadership stuff that transcends industry.
Mm-hmm.
He brings that to the table. And that he could say, and all the specific industry experience, you all need to bring this to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Super impressed with that. And that's the hallmark of somebody who says, you know what, I'm not going to collapse when I say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's go talk to the person who's, the head of R&D. Let's go talk to the salesperson. Because together, I know.
Yeah, two things came up for me. One is just on if you don't know, you still have a huge value to the team, in my opinion, because you're coming in with the different perspective
Yeah.
and you're asking simple questions that I think challenge people. If it's
Totally.
really entrenched like that, he's like, hey, why do you do it that way?
Yeah.
As a naive person coming in and open and it's just asking that question,
Yeah.
not judging. It's just, hey, why do you do it that way? Or can you tell me more about, what's the reason behind this?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're like, I don't know, we've done this for 20 years. Okay, well, is it still working?
Yeah.
It can have a huge value.
Yeah. There's the old phrase you've probably heard, which is, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, and in the expert's, few.
Yeah.
The expert has, this is the way, this is the one way. Well, that's great until somebody else comes along and disrupts you,
Hmm.
right? I mean, we can just look, I just see it so much in the technology space. People are going along and it's like, oh, wait a second, we can put 500 songs in your pocket with an iPod,
Yeah.
right? So I guess it was Sony Walkman, and the old cassette players,
Yep.
the whole bit, and maybe a radio on there. Complete disruption
Oh, yeah.
of what's possible there. And
Hmm.
that's the beginner's mindset of, what else could be true,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The
But
second thing that came up
yeah,
um, was relationship, and this will get to
yeah,
another tool called RPA. But
yeah,
if you can tell a story about how you as a leader led people, that applies everywhere, and
yeah,
everybody can understand that.
yeah.
And that's a huge piece of it. What are the problems you solved, and how did you overcome them?
Mhm.
And be able to just to simply state, like,
Yeah.
how think about it is, what is your superpower that you applied to be able to
Mhm.
overcome it? If you can tell those stories, you can,
Uh-huh.
it applies everywhere. So moving from one job to another,
Yeah,
you're dealing with people. And maybe this is a good segue into, as I said, the RPA, which is relationship, possibility, and action,
yeah,
which is a process of having a conversation and staying curious, is how I think about it. So first is relationship, and connect with the person. And that depends upon what your relationship is. It could take minutes, it could take months, however
right,
long it takes. And then before you jump to action, which is my tendency and a lot of people's tendency, is to jump into, oh, I'm going to solve this for you or
right,
whatever, is stay in that possibility, which leverages LRA and staying into that curiosity mindset. And then really allowing, I do this like the emergence to come
yeah,
up, or some newness, and naming where you are and moving through that as a tool. Like,
mhm,
so when you go from one company to another. So that reminded me of the RPA. I guess, what's
yeah.
your take on the RPA?
Oh, yeah, there's so many different threads we can pull on there. One of the things that I love that you named is we're always working with people here. So, n years ago, I was in manufacturing and leading a team, and there were 4 shifts. We had about my shift had probably 525 people on it, so big, right? It's a good-sized group, and the 4 shifts felt very different, and so somebody asked me about, like, somebody was wanting to grow their leadership, and they said, "But, the shifts are all so different." And I said, "Okay, so it's the same footprint of the factory. It's the same equipment. It's the same process. What's the one variable?" And he's like, "Well, people." I'm like, "Yeah." So that's what gives us oh, this shift feels, really focused on this, and this one is a little bit more fun, and this way, whatever. And it is true that that is like grounding on whatever work we're doing, grounding on it's people who are the ones that make this happen is so absolutely critical. I mean, in some ways, I almost had to hesitate to say it because it sounds so obvious. But what I find is it's not always obvious.
Mhm.
And the other thing that's really helped me in this space is I would call this, it's a truism or an axiom, but people are always all the time trying to get their needs met. And that's not at all a cynical view, like, oh, well, people are selfish. That is not at all cynical. It's to recognize that that is a part of the human condition. And if I can look at the person across the table from me or across the Zoom from me and say, oh, they're trying to get their needs met. So we go back to the sales and the quality organization. Okay, sales is trying to get the need met because they're trying to sell the product. Their salary is based on commission. Okay, they're trying to get a need met.
Mhm.
Same thing for quality. Like they're trying to get a need met because they have this a need for excellence, for reliability. And so when I can recognize the person across from me is trying to get their needs met, it grounds me. And it's like, yep, we're human. How do we navigate this thing together? So that for me is kind of an underpinning. And when I can do that and really ground that, then I can turn to, let's say, RPA and say relationship. What do I care about? What do they care about?
Mhm.
Why are we having this conversation today? Because you and I care about something. And there's an uncovering that shared care is so powerful. Oh, we both care about delivering something great to our customers that we feel proud of. Okay, there's a shared care. Now we're in relationship.
Mhm.
Now let's talk about possibilities. Let's open this up. And it's a skill to be able to develop that and then to turn to the possibilities space. Okay, um, what are all the options here? And it goes back to our conversation much earlier, right? So, what are the options? What are the possibilities with these? What questions do we have about each of these options? And then turn to, okay, so how are we going to coordinate this action? We've now made a decision, or, yep, we've looked at these, we're ready for a decision. Let's make that decision. How do we coordinate that? How do we make sure that we're executing and we're making offers and we're making promises? Um, that's how we get work done
Yeah.
while we're humanizing and we're saying, yeah, we can do excellent work while having an environment that is caring, that is supportive of one another. So I said a lot because I care about this a lot.
No, and that the word mutuality comes up with me because a lot of
Yeah.
times I talk about relationship and they're like, "Yeah, I have a relationship." And when you ask, "Is it a mutual relationship?"
Right.
It's like, for some people, it's a different question, and to me, it's not.
Yeah,
So it's
no.
maybe an assumption I have or a belief I
Yeah,
have in relationships that, yeah, they're for mutual benefits
right.
or mutual
Absolutely.
engagement and mutual needs. I mean, you talked about human needs, individual needs, but there's also need for us to be in a social order, in a social in society
So
and
much.
culture and community.
So much,
Yeah.
right? This belonging, this I matter. Yeah, the whole bit. I was coaching somebody years ago, delightful, bright, really, really bright engineering manager. And we and he was struggling with some of his stakeholders, one in particular. And, lots of conversations where they were just stuck, you
Mhm.
know, you think A, I think B, that sort of thing. And I introduced relationship possibility and action, RPA, as a structure for going in and having the conversation. And it completely was an unlock for him with with all of his relationships, and but the one where he was most stuck, that was the biggest unlock. And he said, I use this anytime I'm going in to have a conversation with another person. I think about, what is it that they care about? What do I care about? How do I uncover that? What questions do I want to ask them? So that's all relationship. Okay. And then, he developed the skills around how do you stay open during possibilities and not do the no, but, yes, but, all of those that really shut down possibilities.
Mhm.
And then sew up the conversation with, okay, it sounds like we have an agreement on this. I'm going to take this action. You're going to take this action. Are we aligned? Huge unlock. And so what was interesting to me about that is he started to see that shift very quickly. And then we talked probably a year or so, or 6-month coaching. Then he said that for him, RPA, relationship possibility and action, was the thing that he continues to use over and over and over again. It has the staying power. It structures your conversations,
Mhm.
lets you know, like, where am I in this conversation? Because you and I know this too, which is if you're in a conversation for relationship and I'm in a conversation for action, we're going to have a conflict.
Mhm.
If you want to talk possibilities and I want to talk, well, when is this going to get done? Inherently, there's a conflict.
Yeah.
So that's what this particular leader figured out is, oh, it not only gives me a structure for the conversation, it helps me make sure that the the person, the stakeholder that I'm connecting with and I are in the same conversation. Because otherwise things would go sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
And
just curious, like what opens up for you when I say that?
yeah, I think understanding where you are in
Yeah.
that framework can really help.
Yeah.
And then, yes, are you aligned? And that's where how you taught it several years ago was, or you imagine you still do, is
Mm.
you can name it. Like, hey, you ready to
Yeah.
move on to possibilities and move on to action, or to pull it back. Like, hey, it sounds like you're in actions. I was just trying to figure out like what are all of our possibilities, and
Mm.
also using the words experimenting and like, hey, what like we're still curious, and the bringing them back to I think more around the possibility side of that conversation.
Mhm. And what I find is we often individuals have can have a preference for one of those 3 kinds of conversations.
Hmm.
That can be just a personality thing. Like, you think of something like, um, DISC, somebody who's a driver, or Berkman, somebody who's red, like, they're gonna like to hang out in the action conversation.
Hmm.
We're making decisions, we're moving to action, um, and just recognizing that, "Oh, I have a preference for this, and maybe I stay here too long.
Yep.
What is the situation calling for?" Oh, I love and I do, I love possibilities conversations. They are so fun, they're creative, it lights my brain up for sure. And I have to recognize, like, okay, that, we've got 10 ideas here on the table. We can't go do 10. Maybe coming up with an 11th isn't the best use of our time. How about we narrow? Are
Yeah.
we ready to move to a decision? And that's something you and I know, but I want to call out and make that distinction more clear, which is in action, there's a step there that is really about, oh, we're ready to make a decision now. Are we all ready? Okay, here is our decision. Everybody's aligned? Yep. Okay. Now, what are the actions to make that decision come to life? So I like to tease that one out a little bit more because some people don't necessarily think of action as including the decision, but it really
Right.
does. It includes the decision. It's critical.
Yeah. It made me think of divergence and convergence, and
Absolutely.
that either was single or double, triple, whatever many times it takes, but like coming up with ideas and then naming it. Like, all right, I think we have 10 ideas, like you said, 11th. I mean, maybe somebody's like, no, 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 we really need 20 ideas. Okay, so you have that conversation. And then you start narrowing it down, make a decision. You probably start experimenting, and more questions come up or more possibilities come up. And then,
Mhm.
how are you pivoting or adapting could be another possible convergence. Just and
Sure.
having that, also kind of acknowledging where you are in that conversation or journey, I guess.
Yeah. And we found this, like, understanding where you are is so important. And we found this in our team of people running LFC because we had strong personalities and people who had strong opinions and would, learners and come in with, oh, here's what I think we should do. It, and the broader culture that rewards being assertive and having ideas and, being an activator. So all of that fed into behavior around each of us coming in and asserting and asserting and asserting. And that can cause a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like you're demanding that we're going to do this. Oh, why is it we're going to do it X way when I have a different opinion? So, what we got really skilled at as a team over time is we kept saying, like, the stuff that we're leading others through is only as good as our willingness to practice it. So if we're not practicing it, whatever. We might
Yeah.
as well just send people textbooks and say good luck. So we practiced it. And a really common move was something like, "Hey, I'd like to have a possibilities conversation about something. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's some possibilities that I've come up with. Let's have a conversation about this."
Hmm.
And that, what I found, shifted people instead of, "But I've got to defend. No, we've always done it this way. We've already designed X or whatever," to, "Okay, we're having a conversation to open up some new thinking." And sometimes we would then come back and go, "Yeah, after this conversation, we're going to leave it the same." And sometimes it was like, "Oh, this is a really cool, interesting innovation. Let's, how do we go try it? How do
Right.
we experiment with it?"
Yeah.
So if you can have a team that has this language, then, and it's not about them just having it. It's a leader saying, "I'm committed to leading in this way, and I'm going to practice it, and I'm going to teach this to my employees, and we're going to um, actively use this kind of framework." You can reduce so much conflict, so much tension in the team to say, "Hey, we're going to have a possibilities conversation," or, "Oh, wait a second. We're actually not aligned on what do we really care about here? What's
Mhm.
most important? Let's go back to that for a little bit." Because you know this, like, that conversation is not linear. It can loop back on
Yeah.
itself many, many, many times, particularly over the course of a longer, relationship, like a team would be together over,
Yeah.
hopefully many years. That can be a really powerful thing to go, "Wait, you know what? We need to go back and talk about, what are we really caring about? Are we living into our values, the things that are most important?" So yeah, there's a real possibility of being able to signal that and sort of circumvent, it's not even the right word. It's, have a conversation to signal, here's the kind of conversation that I want to have, and get alignment on that. The conversations just go much more smoothly,
Yeah. I
much,
mean,
much.
this is where I think I am. And if, just even aligning with where I think and where you think, just between the two people, but then on a team, it's even, more, can be more powerful
Absolutely. Yeah, because
or
you
more
have
important
whatever,
because
8, 10 people, yeah, with all their
yeah,
different
you
opinions.
probably have 8 or 10 different opinions of where you are in this process and definitely,
Mhm.
what their perspective is. And that's what makes it great on a diverse team to have
Right.
wonderful perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. It's kinda like the old joke of, you can have, I say it about coaches, but I think it's true of engineers and lots of other disciplines too. Like, okay, you can have 10 coaches in the room and you'll have 11 opinions. It's like, yeah, it's, and there's a richness of that.
There
And
is.
that's true for manufacturing or engineering or law to coaching. I think it applies across the board.
Yeah. Because there's no single solution. Else you wouldn't have these debates and teams.
Yeah. And what I
Yeah.
find, the last thing that I'll say there, I mean, sure, we could talk more about it, but the last point that I do want to make on the um, relationship possibility and decision and action is, um, the practice of it gets easier over time, and it takes some intentionality initially, but over time it can really become second nature and just a way of communicating that, um, that reduces unnecessary conflict,
Mhm.
right? Because some conflict is really good and it can be quite productive. But if we're just in two different kinds of conversations, you're in possibility and I'm in action, that's not productive
Right.
conflict. That is
Yeah.
not, that's a waste in the system. So that's the last thing I'll say is it gets
Yeah.
easier the more we practice it.
And I would add a new practice or a new habit, you implement it, and you're probably noticing when you're not doing it afterwards. Like you can capture it afterwards,
Beautiful.
but eventually it becomes easier and you can do it maybe right after the moment,
Right.
then maybe in the moment.
Beautiful.
And if you're really on a journey, maybe you can do it proactively. Like, oh, I need to stay in this RPA and like have a solid strategy. And to be able to pivot in the moment is not something a beginner usually can do. For example, I remember LFC, we had, I forget, it was a month or so between
Mhm.
sessions. And in that time, we were practicing these things. And we come back and we're like, yeah, basically, we all said, yes, we failed in some way or another. Right.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it all the time. But slowly it was understanding that one, everybody else was failing this when they were trying it. Like nobody just perfectly does it in a matter of weeks. But then you started going, oh, you noticed it. Okay. At least you noticed it afterwards.
Right.
And then, okay, then, can you do it right afterwards? And then maybe pivot in the conversation.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. And giving ourselves the license to have that learning curve, I think
Mhm.
is really, really important.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to, I tried that quote unquote technique once. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So I'm not going to do it again. It's like, no, it's, it's a practice. It's a way of being. Um, and that to give ourselves just the breathing room, I would say, to be able to practice to get really, really good. Right? I mean, so we're just finishing up with the Winter Olympics. You look at these people and the the things that these athletes can do with their bodies is remarkable. And there's thousands of hours that go into that one move or that one, 1 minute run that they did, it- or a program that is 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
Took thousands of hours to get to that level of excellence. Um, mm, but that's
And they weren't even perfect. Right.
and they
I
weren't
mean,
even perfect.
nobody gets perfect tens or whatever it is
Right,
these
right,
days.
right.
Yes.
Exactly. And so giving ourselves that license to say, okay, I'm going to practice, and there's learning in when it doesn't go the way I wanted it to, or I didn't do it as well as I wanted to. Okay, so there's learning in that.
Yeah.
Where else can I try next?
And just coming back and saying, okay, did I check the box? Like, did I just did it? Hey, did I stay curious? Do I really understand their
Yeah.
perspective? In other words, stay close to the intent as opposed to checking the box.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Mm.
The other thing that you just made me think about is, and it's tied to Olympics as well, and that is, um, I wouldn't recommend people try to practice R, you know, um, RPA in the most difficult, challenging situations, right? These Olympic athletes didn't go out into the arena where everybody's watching and try the thing for the first time, right? They tried it in lots of different places before. And so I encourage my clients, I'm like, try this at home.
Mhm.
Try it in low stakes environment where you're like, the conversation will be fine. We've got a great relationship, but I'm just going to practice the move of, hey, we both care about having a really nutritional meal, and a meal that tastes great. Yeah, that's what I want to. Okay, great. Let's talk about what should we go out? Should we cook at home? Okay, we explore. Okay, are we ready to make a decision? Yeah, it sounds like we want to actually cook at home, and here's what we want to make. Okay, you're going to chop this, and I'm going to chop the other thing. Really low stakes
Yeah.
environment.
I'm smiling because I always use the take out the trash example, but it's very similar. Like,
Yeah,
who's going to take out the trash?
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we do it in these low stakes environments, then it gives us the opportunity to feel where it feels uncomfortable, feel where we have more strength, more clarity. What do we want to practice more? And then we get better, and then we can increase the stakes and where to where to continue to explore and use this as a framework. So that's the other part because I find some people will try to use this approach in the really high stakes environment. It doesn't go the way they want it to. And then they say, well, the thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's not the way humans learn and grow. We we grow by doing and
Yep.
we learn by doing. And so this is all about practice. And you and I both know, um, we we practice until we become whatever, and that we're always practicing something,
Yeah. Yep.
right? I'm either practicing having lousy conversations or I'm practicing having productive conversations that there's mutuality and there's curiosity, all of those kinds of things.
Hmm.
So, what do I want to practice?
Yeah. And experiment with what you practice. I mean, maybe some of these tools don't work with for everybody. That's fine too.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Maybe there's a different version of LRA, RPA, or,
Yeah.
321.
Yeah. And
Well,
if somebody has it, I'd love to know.
yes, yes.
Reach out. I want to hear that. Have that conversation.
We'd love that.
Yeah.
As we wrap up today, I have a question for you, which is, what is the one word that represents your leadership mindset these days?
Mhm. Yes, I always break this rule and offer several words, but I'm not going to break the rule today. Um, Curiosity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very
Is
much part of our
really
conversation.
yeah, it is really hard for me to pick just the one word, but that's the one.
Yep.
I can come back to that one
Yeah, I
over.
don't know. I
Yeah.
think very few guests pick or stay on one. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're an overachiever there.
I'm trying to be disciplined.
All right. What is the one leadership lesson you've learned from um,
Mm,
parenting your daughter?
yeah, humble.
A good one.
Yeah, being humble. Boy, that's a big one. I think the other one that I would say is control is an illusion.
Yeah.
I, you know, I, c- I can create the conditions for certain things and um, try to influence a certain direction. And I just recognize that that narrows over time. But I think that applies in leadership as well. Like that there's control. eh, I'll drive myself mad as a leader if that's my one tool.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree. And related to that, or maybe it's very similar, is releasing expectations.
yeah.
The kid's going to do this, this, and this. No.
No. Yeah. This is not on life.
Nope. That's what three boys have taught me.
Yeah. And as a parent, I look at it and I'm like, okay, can I really hold on to the wonder of who she is
Huh.
and be in touch with that, which is like, let her unfold. And yeah, I see stuff and I'm like, oh, look at that. Like, okay, parenting.
Eh,
Yay,
Yep.
I'm doing it. And there's plenty of times where it's like, yeah, oh, yeah, it's not the path I would have gone, but okay. And she has to make the mistakes. And
Yep.
hopefully they're not, you know, consequential, long term consequential. That's the other part is like, can I help her? Can I have enough where she can make enough mistakes that she's learning, but they're not so consequential that they're devastating,
Yeah.
right? So
I've
we
always
do
said it
yeah,
would be the one thing, if I could have a magic wand as a parent, the one thing I would do is to choose their friends, which I know I can't do,
right.
but do it in a way that there's some really bad people and some
Yeah,
really goody two shoe people. And maybe they're in the middle. They're exposed to both sides
yeah,
because
I
of
can
that
see
learning.
it. Yeah,
And,
there's so
and I,
much to learn
I
there.
do that because I was exposed to maybe not the extremes of that, but I think that helped me for sure.
Yeah, to make choices.
Mhm.
See, I do this a lot in the space of money with my daughter. So I I started giving her an allowance when she was probably 3. And the thing was like, okay, spend some, save some, um, and give some. And give some could be like She'd save up her money sometimes and donate it to World Wildlife Fund and get a little teddy bear or a polar bear back or whatever. Or she's going to a birthday party and she'd kick in some money for the gift, and then I would kick in the rest of the money. And then I've just continued to increase how much she has, because what I recognize is if she makes a $40 mistake now, she's going to remember that, because if she doesn't have any of this experience managing money, she's like, the mistakes she could make at 20,
Yeah.
she could go into some serious debt at 20 years old or 30 or 40 or whatever. And those are really consequential decisions. So that is in my mind a lot, that kind of thinking of what can she make decisions on, make some mistakes, and they're they're learning, right?
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Roar Mindset, Leading Through Chaos. Disruption isn't going away, but you can embrace it and turn it into an advantage. Until next time, stop fighting disruption, lead with clarity, and thrive in uncertain times. And then the other question is, what's the one leadership lesson you continually learn over and over again?
Yeah, over and over again. I feel like it's this thing of people are always trying to get their needs met all the time. People
Uh,
are always, all the time trying to get their needs met. And sometimes people are skilled at it. And sometimes people don't even know what their needs are until we get clear together. Um, it helps. And the reason that one I feel like I learn over and over again is it helps me stay grounded in, this is a human being that I'm working with, even if we see the world vastly differently. Um, they're doing the best they can with what they have, and there's some attempt to get some needs met. And, welcome to the human condition.
mhm.
So, can we do that in a way that's a little bit less painful for one another?
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you for joining today and really appreciate the conversation.
Oh, so much fun. I just love having these conversations with you, and where your curiosity shows up and your experience, and yeah, just an honor to be in conversation with you and talking about what we get to talk about. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And thank you again for setting me on this path of with LFC and coaching. And going to New Ventures West is definitely you were a big aid plus Near in his work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
First is shared care. People are always trying to get their needs met. It's not bad, it's just what we do. When you hold this mindset, it changes how you see others. Instead of resistance, you start to look for what they care about. When you find that shared care, the conversation shifts. People want to engage because something important to them is being seen. Second is the power of naming. Many teams get stuck not because of the problem, but because they're in different conversation. One person is pushing action, another is exploring possibilities, and someone else is trying to connect. Simply naming where you are can unlock the conversation and bring alignment, especially when grounded in a shared care. Third is using tools to create structure. These are not rigid frameworks, but simply ways to stay grounded in the moment. Over the past few conversations, we have brought you a few. LRA, listen, reflect, and ask. This is useful to engage in curiosity and understanding of the other person's perspective. 3-2-1, shift perspective to a third person, then the other person's, and then yours to stay open and curious, and remember to do it in that order. RPA, relationship, possibility, and action, where you connect with somebody and explore what's possible before jumping to action to ensure that you have all the right solutions on the table. These are practices, not instant solutions. Work on them, adjust as needed, and then try them out. Good luck. Thanks for listening to Roar Mindset, Leading Through Chaos. Disruption isn't going away, but you can embrace it and turn it into an advantage. Until next time, stop fighting disruption, lead with clarity, and thrive in uncertain times.